Hello everyone, my name is Taylor and this is Shared Living, a roommate management application. I'll be presenting on behalf of Martins, Kavya, Yashis, and of course myself, Taylor. Jumping right into it, a quick overview through a table of contents. We'll first start off with a brief introduction, and from there we'll go into some pre-existing research that we conducted that informed some of the decisions in our methodology. From there, we'll jump into the actual methodology and some of the testing and insights that we gathered that inform some of our design decisions. From there, we'll actually go through an actual walkthrough of some high fidelity screens showing you the actual application, and afterwards wrap it up with a conclusion. So like I said, a quick introduction, some initial steps that we took to actually start this project. So the initial problem was informed by our personal background experiences that a lot of us have probably had, and that is roommates. The problem being that roommates and any person living in shared living areas often have trouble assigning and organizing chores, responsibilities, and tasks with one another. Our idea was relatively simple, and that's what we call shared living, a mobile application that streamlines the tedious aspects of roommate conflict into one comprehensive, intuitive platform. Roommate applications have existed for a while, but we kind of identified that they were often missing some critical key features. So it might be a comprehensive or intuitive pantry management system. It might be, more streamlined or intuitive alert systems, or a more comprehensive to-do list. There was some key critical feature that was missing, and we wanted to build upon that existing work and come up with a comprehensive personal solution to all those problems. Like I said, there were some existing applications before this, but most importantly, there was some existing research that we wanted to build upon that would inform not just our design decisions, but the methodology, how we actually gathered insights and solved these problems. So like I said, we kind of identified 3 existing studies that we found kind of interesting that we wanted to build upon. One of the studies was about conflict resolution. And that is, existing research showed, ironically, that compromising and joint problem solving, something that we associate with, adult mature roommates, those were actually associated with higher levels of bullying and victimization, which we found interesting, and we wanted to see if there was a way to build upon that knowledge. Another study was about communication, and we found that past methods tried to encourage roommate compatibility by sorting them initially based on attributes like when they wake up or who likes to cook. This is real common when you're first moving in with roommates in college. We found that contemporary roommates try to prioritize communication regardless of differing lifestyles. So there can be some discrepancies in lifestyles and personality attributes. All of that is fine as long as we are prioritizing communication and hashing these problems out through talking. And then finally, nudging. User behavior can be modified to encourage certain behaviors, often called, like I said, nudging. Nudging can take the form of in-call facilitators that increase ability, sparks that increase motivation, and signals reinforcing actions. So after doing all this research, we kind of identified a core question, and that is, can we utilize existing knowledge based on this conflict resolution, communication preferences, and reinforcing positive behaviors to build a better shared living application? So armed with that research and armed with that question, that allowed us to jump into the methodology, and that is coming up ways to gather user insights that would later inform our design decisions. So from that, our methodology, actually building our application, we first started off with user interviews. So on top of the aforementioned pre-existing research, user interviews rendered insight into what users living in existing roommate accommodations expected from a roommate application. Likewise, we had a card sort. We conducted a card sort to establish an intuitive information architecture based on users' existing mental models. And then finally, we conducted lo-fi user testing. So after creating rough, low-fidelity prototypes, we conducted in-person testing with users living in roommate situations. We conducted user interviews with various people that, most importantly, actually had roommates or have in the past lived with the roommates that could share their important experiences. Some quotes that we found interesting that was worth sharing was from various people. One person, when addressing roommates verbally about issues, described it as hating the tension that it creates later. Another person, when talking about where the food supplies are, didn't like that it had no central visibility. All these food supplies were spread out, and they were not in a central area. And likewise, when addressing small household items like spices, but they still hate paying for it eventually, they call these items too petty to track, and wondered if there was a more or more intuitive way to go about doing that. From there, we decided to use our lo-fi screens to conduct just that, some lo-fi user testing. We initially identified kind of 3 core tasks that we felt were integral and a huge part of the app, where if they didn't work, this would indicate some early high-level problems with the user. The initial task was simply identifying and completing an assigned chore. So on this application, there might be some alerts or some chores set up where that they are assigned to different people, and we wanted to make sure that the user could identify and complete these assigned chores. It could be something as simple as cleaning the bedroom or washing the dishes. Likewise, building on top of that, we wanted to see if the users could add a new household chore. So this could be something simple as on top of washing the dishes or cleaning the bathroom, it might be vacuuming, for example. And then finally, the third one was checking pantry status. Did the user's mental model align with checking the pantry and making sure that all options were stocked? For the most part, all the users conducted all the tests relatively well. It was relatively accessible and easy to use. We did identify some problems with the initial task and making sure that the assign chore button was very clear and readable. But outside that, there were no major high-level issues, just some kind of refined and nuanced issues that we wanted to address when designing the high-fidelity screens. From there, we can actually jump into the actual walkthrough and take a look at some high-fidelity screens that we prototyped. Like I said, all downstream from user interviews, card sorts, lo-fi user testing, and initially pre-existing research. So jumping into the initial homepage here, just that. This is the first page that the user will see when opening the application. And we wanted to create just that, an intuitive homepage where important reminders and alerts are featured as a call to action on the homepage. If you remember some of the pre-existing research that we found, it reinforced the idea of nudges, reinforcing positive behavior, so to speak. So at the top of this application there, if you can look at the screen, we start with a positive reinforcement, and that says your contributions this week, 5 tasks completed, kind of reinforcing this behavior of like, hey, you're doing a good job. Down below, though, we have stuff that needs attention. Chores like taking out the trash, cleaning the kitchen, pantry alerts like low stock on milk or low stock on eggs. Down below, we also considered information hierarchy, where tasks and sections are grouped based on existing user mentals and card sort data. So all of this is downstream from a comprehensive card sort that we did, identifying and categorizing stuff into a pantry, chores, alerts, and general activity or miscellaneous stuff. And then likewise, we came up with a fresh UI. So we wanted this to feel kind of contemporary and fresh and inviting, so bright pastel colors create an inviting and delightful user interface. Diving a level deeper here into some of the core essential features of the application, one of the most important one is chore management. So on the left, as before, we saw the home screen. On the right, if you select chores, this goes to the chore homepage. So items like completed chores will appear first. And if the users and all the roommates living under one apartment have actually completed the chores, they'll show up here. Again, stuff like cleaning the kitchen, paying the internet bill, vacuuming the living room. When users complete the chore, they can opt to complete it, and it'll show up here. And this serves as one kind of comprehensive home base where all users can look at the chores and make sure that the person has done them as need be. Diving another level deeper, this is what adding a new chore looks like. If you remember, this was actually downstream from some of the lo-fi user testing that we conducted earlier. Initially, to add a new chore, the user can choose to name the chore, what's the chore actually called. They can choose to assign it to themselves, a roommate, or rotation based on a specific schedule. And the chore will show up in the initial chore app as you saw before. Likewise, if you can actually click into the chore and see the details about it, whether it's overdue, the ability to remind the user that this chore needs to be completed, and you can even see the chore history when they were completed on a specific date. Finally, diving into another core feature of the app that's kind of pantry management, and that is a comprehensive place to organize all the food products that the users might have, whether it could be milk, bananas, cereal, you name it. This kind of keeps tracks of what products are available, what products are about to expire. If a user has bought a product and wants to add it to the list, they can add it to the list here and could categorize it like so. Likewise, not necessarily some core features, but in an effort to kind of flesh out this app and make it a fully realized product, we have some miscellaneous screens, stuff like inviting roommates, managing household settings, creating your own profile, and also managing alerts here on these 4 screens. So with all that said, a quick wrap up talking about some of the stuff that we uncovered. Our initial project started with building upon existing research. So we recognized that there was a large inventory of knowledge that was already existing, and we wanted to let other people do the work for us and then build on top of that. So we let pre-existing research inform insights and our own methodology. Likewise, we came up with an efficient methodology. We conducted user interviews, card sorts, and lo-fi user testing that informed design decisions. And then likewise, we came up with a relatively comprehensive design. We let all these design decisions be downstream from, like I said, this inventory of knowledge and research that results in a comprehensive user interface that satisfies key goals and tasks. With all that being said, thank you so much. Appreciate it.